thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who is a little bit out of his element as he is going to try to review the album Black to the Future by Sons of Kemet. This was recommended to me by a viewer, Alvaro Caballero, and the reason I'm out of my element, Donnie, is because it's jazz music. And jazz music and classical music in general, I just don't feel like I'm educated enough to speak on these topics with any real conviction. Now, I'm not realistically educated enough to talk about rock or pop or hip-hop either, but I at least feel like I have more of a base of knowledge to do that, right? But I don't want to let my ignorance ruin a great review, or a good review of a great album. And this is an amazingly good album that is worth listening to, even if you are the kind of person who does not like being asked, "Do you like jazz?" See, there's enough words in this album to make me comfortable to review it. There's an editorial stance that the album takes, which I'll get into. And really, it's not really jazz. I mean, I guess it is, but it's just talented musicians making music together. In a way, it is very much of its moment. It is such a combination of many different genres. When I study pop music, when I study rock, I'm constantly jumping around from one genre to another, studying how things come together. You know, like Imagine Dragons, right? How do you even classify Imagine Dragons? Imagine Dragons could not exist in their weird hybrid rock, pop, hip-hop, whatever mixture. 21 Pilots, same thing. They could not exist except in this time. So think of Sons of Kemet as exactly like Imagine Dragons. That's a joke. They're nothing like Imagine Dragons, except in the way that they bend genres. But more importantly, genres do not concern them. Genres are beneath them. It's sort of jazz. It's sort of like West Indian music, kind of dancehall reggae rhythms at times. Reminds me at times of carnival music. Reminds me at times of a New Orleans marching band. It reminds me heavily of African music with different polyrhythms. It reminds me of electronic dance music with its sort of droning. It's clearly influenced by hip-hop, not just in the fact that a couple of hip-hop artists are on this album, but also in its phrasing and its approach. The thing that unifies everything is that every single song has an amazingly good, complicated groove. Complicated grooves are the best kind of grooves, right? Where you're kind of nodding your head, but at the same time you're just like you're just about to fall out of the rhythm. There's so much happening, you know, like where you just it's the physical, visceral response of listening to music. But your brain is also just slightly satisfied knowing that this isn't just a four on the floor thing that's happening. It's some kind of deeper groove. Every song on this album feels as though it's about to fall apart and then it comes together. The songs are often polyrhythmic, almost always polyphonous, but then everything gets unified, and this might shock you if you've never heard their music. Everything gets unified. This is going to shock you. I'm just going to keep making you wait for this word that's coming up. It's a four-letter word. Everything gets unified by the tuba. There is a lot of tuba on this album. Too much tuba. Have we been pranked? Is this too much tuba? Is this a medically inadvisable amount of tuba? No, it is just right. This album will make you say, there is no such thing as too much tuba. It is played so well, it is used so dynamically, and when you actually look at what this band is, it's a saxophonist who plays other woodwind instruments, it's a tubanist, a tubaganer, a tuba player, and two percussionists. And that's it. What an interesting and challenging grouping of musicians. The whole thing is led by the band leader, the previously mentioned woodwind player, Shabaka Hutchings, who very clearly has a vision for what he's doing with this album. There are only words on 5 out of the 11 songs of this album, but if I could sort of put everything into one category, it would actually call back to a review I did a couple years ago of Dave and his amazing album Psychodrama, another great British artist, and really tied around the themes of Negritude, as developed by the great writer Aimé Césaire. And this idea, excuse me, I'm not going to start again. just going to clear my throat and have a sip of coffee. I apologize. So Negritude, is a literary and cultural movement that started in the 20th century, mainly by French writers or Francophone writers like Aimé Césaire and Senghor, and it was aimed at raising Black consciousness, but an international Black consciousness. The affirmation that there is a value of being of African descent, that African culture deserves to be recognized and praised. It is a fully international movement, and international in nature. The argument I was making about Dave is that it feels like it's a part of an international Negritude movement, like moving back to this idea that the only way that people of African descent are going to be able to make it out of the situation that they have been put in is by banding together in a way that is not just local, but is international. And if the protests around the world, for some guy who was murdered in Minnesota, have shown us anything, it's that this could be coming. This moment of international negritude that was so wished for might actually be coming. And this might be the way that we know it's coming. Yeah, it might come through LeBron James, or it might come from music like this. I do wonder, can any international movement really come from America? That's just a side question, which if you find interesting, I do have the best comment sections on the internet. What do you think? Is it even possible for a true international movement to come from America when America is so national and so powerful? I don't know. But all the way throughout this album, it really seems to be that that's what this is hinting at. And it's not a comforting take. This is not a kumbaya album of saying we're all together and we're all going to get through this, and there are good ones too. This album starts off with saying burn it all down and ends with saying leave us alone. It is a scream while also being an amazing groove. Like I said, there's only 5 tracks with music, but according to Shabaka Hutchings, the track listing itself is a set of lyrics. So I'm going to read those to you. Field negus, pick up your burning cross, think of home. Hustle for the culture to never forget the source. In remembrance of those fallen, let the circle be unbroken. Envision yourself levitating. Throughout the madness, stay strong, Black. Sounds like a poem to me. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to point to a link, and that link is going to contain a song which I think exemplifies this album quite well. Before I do that, I'm going to start doing callouts. Please subscribe to this channel if you like the kind of stuff that I do. This morning my daughter misspoke and said smash that like bucket. So that's what I'm going to be saying. So please smash that like bucket and leave a comment. What was it that made you like this bucket? So my stamp, my example song, now it's hard because the whole album is so strong and is so good, but I'm going to pick Up Your Burning Cross. So follow that link to listen to the song if you've never heard it. This is featuring More Mother, who did an album that I stupidly did not review last year with Billy Woods, and Angel Bat Dawid. This has all of the inspirations in one. We have African rhythms, we have dance hall rhythms from Jamaica, we have a sort of crazy, sort of abrasive techno feel, which reminds me of the aggressive production of the Bomb Squad for the hip-hop group Public Enemy, which itself was inspired by James Brown's insane horn section and Maceo Parker and all them back in the 70s. A sort of great celebration of the history of Black music all coming together in jazz, techno, hip-hop, everything. And it's all here. The tuba is basically playing a West Coast hip-hop bass line. The trumpet is, not a trumpet, the saxophone is like essentially this insane like techno siren. Everything's all together. African, European, American, all Black. And it all works. These sirens that come on at the end, this wah, 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 which you hear, it's first of all just awesome. Like the whole song has this great feeling. It's that kind of complicated wah, 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 wah. Sometimes it'll be 4 times, wah, 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 wah. Sometimes it'll be 3, wah, wah, wah. Going back to James Brown, 3 times, right? It's that kind of sense of like what's going to happen next. It is wild, it is crazy, and it is awesome. My son was listening to it, and it reminded him of the song Alors on danse by Stromae, which has a kind of synthesizer, really dirty sounding saxophone synthesizer on it. And that's what this sounds like. And at times this does what another really good British jazz band does, Go Go Penguin, of making music that could be electronica, but is played by really talented musicians. And the difference you really feel. At some point, there's like almost like a solo with this saxophone. It's like this wailing, angry solo that repeats itself so much. And the thing is, you know this person, Hutchings, his last name, you know Hutchings has this talent. So when he repeats himself so much and does something fairly minimalistic, it actually reminds me of the power of like a Neil Young guitar solo. Just like this, just wailing and just, oh, it's so good. At a certain point, there's like a quiet thing with a clarinet. Hey, I warned you. I warned you. I said I'm not capable of talking about jazz with any intelligence, okay? So if it turns out I'm talking about him playing a clarinet solo when he's actually playing the oboe, please correct me. You can call me an idiot. That's totally fine. But just don't say I didn't warn you. Anyways, there's this really quiet point, and then it comes back. The lyrics, unfortunately, are somewhat hidden. It's mostly by this female rapper, More Mother, American. Very obscure, too. Like, she'll say something you understand, and then she'll say something you don't understand, like, yeah, yeah, ye. You should pick up your burning cross, pick up the pace, ain't no end, just hell and rage. It's just a really very strong, visceral thing that matches the rest of the album thematically of being anger at the horrible treatment of people of African descent for the past forever. There's a little bit of additional vocal like flourishes by Angel Dawes, which is at the beginning and the end, and just in general, the whole thing. Just get out of here. This production on this album, I wrote it right here. These are my notes. I don't have a script. I have notes. Production, get out of here. That's how good the production is. I can't figure out, because so often what they do is they have like a wall of woodwinds, and then they have other sounds that go on top and underneath, and I don't know how it never feels too busy. It never feels cluttered. It never feels empty. The whole thing is just so well produced, and you listen to this song and you just listen to the distinct elements and the rhythms and the sounds and the melodies and the voices. It's amazing that it all stays together. So that's my sample track. Smash that like bucket. Then I'm now going to go through the rest of the album, kind of song by song. It opens up with a song called Field Negus, which I suppose is another way of saying field Negro. If you don't know, in the old days in slavery, slaves would be in the field or in the house, and those who were in the house were perceived of as getting better treatment because they did not have to do as much physical labor, though they're of course still slaves. And traditionally, there's been seen a different attitude between slaves in the field and slaves in the house. Painful reminder of how, even in slavery, slave masters are able to divide people from each other, right? That's how you maintain power. So the whole song is dedicated to this idea of we are all field Negroes now, okay? Not me, right? But anybody in the international blackness, right? But it's barely a song, kind of a mournful saxophone, skittish drums going on, sometimes multiple saxophones. Everything is here for the lyrics as they are said by poet Joshua Idehen. Maybe that's how you pronounce it, maybe it's not. You are a field Negro too, son. Leave Candace Owen by the plantation. Foolish us, thinking the overseer even had the keys to these chains. How could we expect the dungeon keeper to make the rules and play fair this game? Very powerful, comparing Candace Owens, the racist, far-right, African-American public intellectual figure, comparing her to being somebody who would be still on the plantation supporting the slave owners. But just a really very powerful song that just keeps going and keeps going. All we wanted was some liquor and a flat screen. All we wanted was to be able to buy Skittles without being murdered in the street. You know, very clear references to recent history. And then one of my favorite lines, keep calm and carry on. Oh, the audacity, the caucasity of it all. You know, the Caucasian audacity, the caucasity of it all. It's beautiful. And like I said, it's angry. It's not conciliatory. I'm not comfortable, okay? This music makes me aware of my great-great-grandparents who owned slaves, right? Do I like that fact? I hate it. I hate it. But this song makes me confront it. This song makes me say, yeah, that happened. We did that. I bear responsibility. And what are we going to do now? This song has that anger. It does not make you comfortable. It reminds me of Gil Scott-Heron in that way. Also in the way it's delivered rhythmically. It's like spoken word poetry, but it pays enough attention to the rhythm where it goes along well. It is a very challenging and disrupting and hard song to listen to, which is the song that we need. If I'm comfortable, you're not doing it right, right? If you're trying to start a revolution and I'm comfortable, you're not doing it right. What's interesting is really I'm going to be doing a review of Kodak Black and his album about being from Haiti, or partially about that. This very much sounds to me like a Haitian anthem, because that's the slave revolt in Haiti, ended with everything burning down, and it was really the slaves in the field who did it. And this whole song ends with, "We are all in the field, burn it all, that's what it's saying. This feels to me like next time I teach my class on Haiti, I might actually give this as extra credit. Like, how does this song relate to the Haitian Revolution? This is a really good and really dense album. It's like hard for me to even talk enough about how good it is, because the music is so good and the words are so good. Then we get Pick Up Your Burning Cross. Then we get Think of Home, which is a preview of the instrumental part of the album coming later. Complete dance hall rhythm, just a sick tuba jam. Really, like, the tuba's just doing the bass work. It's offbeat, it's cool. It's like the weird kind of like echoey sounds that happens in old dub reggae. You just love the double drums that are happening in here. There's just really beautiful clarinet solo, some woodwind. Please tell me in the comments. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an oboe. Whatever it is, there's a solo of one of these woodwinds, and then behind is this wall of woodwinds. And I don't know how they're able to make it sound so pleasant, but it sounds really good. Next track is called Hustle, featuring Kojay Radical. Starts with kind of a cool froggy voice. And it's basically like a dance hall reggae song, or sort of a rap song, and just rapping all the way through, but with great African percussion, a kind of polyrhythmic tuba bass line. It builds up until the last chorus. You don't need to pose and posture when you are born in the struggle. I suggest watching the video for this as well. It's these two dancers somewhere in like the British tenement blocks. It's great. And this even has a tuba solo, too much tuba, a tuba solo with drums and like recorders behind it. I've already admitted to my family's terrible history. I will also admit to when I was in fourth grade crying when I tried to play recorder. I couldn't get it to make a good sound. So whenever I hear a recorder, I'm reminded of myself being really mad at myself back then. The next song is called For the Culture. This is weird. This is the only misstep on the album, I'd say. It's a good song. It's funny. It starts off with some guy saying, "Oh my God." It's D-double-E. I guess he's like a famous grimy rapper. I don't know that much about grime rap in England. Cool kind of staccato rhythms. Very cool. It gets kind of like crazy, and then just the tuba, as always, calms it down. But the theme, as far as I can tell, is it's about all the galdem. It's just about attractive women and the dance hall queen. That's just off topic, right? This isn't about the dance hall queen, but maybe I'm missing something. Please tell me in the comments if I am. What's cool is that the saxophone does a lot of the calming in here, because there's just all this crazy stuff where in the beginning the sounds are so staccato, you sort of go a little bit like batty, Once again, the wall of woodwinds comes in and the tuba's all over the place. And then comes the best part of the album for me, which is weird because it's the instrumental middle chunk of the album. I usually don't like instrumental songs. It's hard for me because I want to think. I want to know. What are you saying? Can you tell me what you're saying? But the titles do so much of the work, and just the music is so good. To Never Forget the Source is this sweet song where the saxophone does all the singing, leads the melody from the start. I know what he's singing. I don't really know, but based on the rest of the album, based on the pain and the attempts at like hope, the attempts of rebuilding, and the attempts at creating some sort of sense of international solidarity between people of African descent, To Never Forget the Source, I can read you the lyrics. There are no lyrics, but when you hear them, you understand them. Great descending melodies all the way throughout, double drummers going the whole time, just the blending of the instruments. Again, like, how is this production done so well? I don't know. Nice kind of a mellow drum outro. The next song, I remember all those who have fallen. So I want to make sure I get it right here. In remembrance of all those fallen. Very weird rhythms here, very kind of like hard saxophone solo that comes in eventually after the insanity of like 50 recorders. This sounds like me in 4th grade if you gave me a bunch of recorders, but then the tuba comes in and settles it down. Like, you get the sense that the recorders are just all these like little like hummingbirds like flying around, like, and the tuba is just like this chonky buffalo, it's just like, and all the hummingbirds chill out. You can tell I don't write scripts because I probably would have landed on something better than hummingbirds and a buffalo. A saxophone solo comes on. It almost even reminds me of a klezmer, the way that it's played with this great glissando. A very sweet, nice song. The next song is called Let the Circle Be Unbroken, and this is just the drummers to start, and then the tuba comes in at almost a really oddly high range. A very catchy melody. The melody almost reminds me of that terrible song, I'm in Love with the Shape of You, but fortunately, it's not all the way there. Kind of a dance hall rhythm, though, like it is with that song as well. The tuba and the sax at some point play at the same time, play the same notes, which makes you realize, oh my God, this whole album, they're basically doing something else. They're just doing polyphony just all over the place, playing different notes and different melodies. To hear them together, it's shocking. And there's this great ending where things like break apart, but then like come back together. And that very much feels like the nature of the song, Let the Circle Be Unbroken. We could maybe even extend this metaphor to being the African diaspora, sort of being spread out and slowly attempts to destroy it and coming together. I don't know. But the idea of the circle being unbroken, a song which I connect to June Carter Cash, that I connect to old American country musicians. It's interesting having it in this sort of Pan-African diaspora context. Envision Yourself Levitating is a song in which you can envision yourself levitating. Maybe the coolest groove, the way the tuba and the other horns interact. It almost feels like a marching band, this song. And there's like this great mellow drum solo. How often can you say there's a good drum solo that's mellow? It's both the drummers going, they never lose the beat at all. And this reminds me, I have to see this band in concert. Like, I think they're playing in Toronto in like a year. And I am going. So I'm going. I can't wait. I don't care if like COVID Part 2 comes back. I'm going to see these guys in concert because just hearing these drummers together after hearing everything else, you can just feel the electricness of their music. The next song, Throughout the Madness, Stay Strong. It's like the drum solo from the last song continues, and it's great advice. Throughout the Madness, Stay Strong. Almost Latin rhythms, again, sort of polyrhythmic everywhere here. When I first listened to this album, I was at the gym. I was lifting weights for the rest of the album, and then this was the song I was on the elliptical. And this is a great song to be on the elliptical. Nice and upbeat. There's this really cool point where one of the drummers hits the bell of the ride like 4 times. Ding, 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 ding. It's just great. Just the small little detail that makes me want to buy the album and listen to it over and over again just so that I can get ready. And then when I'm listening, I'll just be like, ding, 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 ding. Oh, it's great. The album ends much the way it began. Spoken word with Joshua Idehen with the song Black. And this is that statement of international negritude, spoken word closing. Again, the song itself is not really important. It's kind of a cacophonous sound in the back, much like it was to begin. It's part of what gives the whole album its unity, its strength, and just gives way to this anger being spoken. Leave us alone. That's the ending of the album. The theme is not we demand equality. It's leave us alone. Because we being white people who have historically enslaved and oppressed other people, we don't have the right to give equality. Equality is natural, right? Equality is always there. So we can't give anybody equality. We just have to leave it alone. So there you go. There's my review of this album. Thank you again to the auditor who suggested this. I read every comment. I don't always respond because I don't want to seem needy. But I read every comment, and like I actually like every comment, even the bad ones. So please, in addition to smashing the like bucket, like do leave a comment. If there's something you like or didn't like or want to say, or if there's something you want me to review. I even listen to every album that someone suggests. I don't always obviously review it, but I give it a shot because if you like me enough to leave a review, you probably know enough about me to know what I might like to review. So anyways, there you go. All right, well, I'm very excited about this. I will say it's very rare that my son loves any of the music that I review, and he loved this album. So I know what he's getting for his birthday. All right, till next time, there's the camera. I do want to say one more thing. And this is just, we had a town election in the town where I live. And there was a candidate, and that candidate lost. And she was the only candidate who was speaking on behalf of changing the curriculum in our extremely undiverse town. And in speaking in the name of teaching critical race theory, or at least acknowledging racism at an early age, because we have a problem in our school district. And she lost, and it makes me upset. And I realize that this music is trying to do that too. Like, we all have to do this, right? We all have to do it. I have to say that my ancestors were slave owners and not qualify it. I just have to say it. And my kids have to say it. They just have to say it. You can't say, but I'm not, and my father marched with Martin Luther King, and the other side of my family was the Underground Railroad, and I do this YouTube channel, and I like a lot of stuff. No, you just have to say it and deal with it. Everyone's so frail. Everyone's so frail. They're so afraid of being wrong. It's okay. It's okay to be born into wrongness. It's okay. You can educate yourself and work your way towards something. Anyways, I got way too political. Maybe I'm finally going to get some unlike buckets too. But I'm just saying it. All right. There's the camera.